Hi, I'm Supermoon Tarot, and in today's video we are going to be asking, does your ex have any regrets? I'm trying to find out, do they miss you? Do they feel sorry? But my number one objective for this video is to help you heal, give you some sense of closure. Often from a breakup, we're so lost in our emotions, and it's an awful, awful directionless time, and it makes us unable to view things in a way that would benefit us most. It's hard to find the positives or the love at a time when we feel darkest, but there is always something good out of any situation. But above anything, I just want you to feel good and feel like you have some sense of closure. So yes, that is the point of today's video. As you can see, we have 4 groups in front of us. I'm going to give you a moment to pick the group that resonates with you most. Here you go. Now that you've done so, you can go down to the description where your designated timestamp is marked for your select group, so you can skip to that part of the video. But let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1, let's find out, does your ex have any regrets? By looking at the cards. Your tarot cards are 6 of Pentacles in reverse. I can tell you this right now. This is you. This is you. This is you. I can just tell you right now. Queen of Swords upright. This is your ex. I can tell you right now. I just already know. Then we have Page of Wands upright. The Hermit in reverse. 6 of Pentacles in reverse. Oh. Ooh, repeated. That's important. Okay, and your last card is Temperance in reverse. Oh, okay. Well, this is very straightforward. I love when the cards are very straightforward. And when messages repeat twice, with you being depicted twice in the 6 of Pentacles in reverse, this is very important. Basically, the spirits are like, listen up, this is what's up. Okay, so let's get into this. This is something, you're going to have to listen to this whole thing because the answers are a little more nuanced than, they're all positive. I have a lot of positive things to tell you, but it's not as simple as yes and no. Do you see what I'm saying? So you'll need to hear the whole thing to understand it better. So let's first talk about the dynamic between the two of you because it's incredibly important. You are represented by the 6 of Pentacles in reverse, as I have said multiple times now. And this is somebody who has an incredibly giving nature, almost to a fault, to be honest with you. This is somebody who, when they feel like they care about someone, they give gifts, they give their energy, they give their time, they put their partner above themselves to the point where if they're suffering from happiness, they have trouble giving themselves attention, taking some time to take care of themselves because all they care about is their partner first. Very wonderful characteristic, very sweet, but that's important to acknowledge when we have this going on with your partner in conjunction. I don't know what the term would be, so I just totally blanked. So the Queen of Swords upright and the Hermit in reverse is your partner. And this person is analytical, logical. They just kind of have a sort of very objective way about seeing things. And there's almost a vibe where they can, to appear to people who just see the dynamic between the two of you, they might appear more closed off. They're not. They're down to tell you things. They're not hiding anything from you. It's just they, in comparison of how giving and open and okay you are with being open with your feelings compared to the way they express themselves, it feels or it seems like they're closed off, if that makes sense. But it's just 2 different people expressing themselves in 2 totally different ways. Nothing wrong with that. Now here's where we get, and I'm going to get to the other cards in a moment, but here's the question at hand. Do they regret? Do they have regrets? No. But here's the thing. The reason why they don't have any regrets is they don't know that they did anything wrong. Like, there's no malicious intent here. They're not a bad person. In fact, actually, they seem like a very nice person, to be honest with you. But because they don't know they did anything wrong or that they've hurt you in any way, as far as they're concerned, it's like they've pulled themselves out of the question altogether. So they don't have regrets because they don't even know there's regrets to contemplate and then have a reaction to, if that makes sense. So it's a good no. And then in addition to that, same question, are they sorry? Well, no, because they don't know they need to be sorry for anything. They're unaware of what they did. So it's like there's a sense of removal rather than ignoring you or saying, yeah, no, I don't care. If they knew, that would be a different discussion. But here's the last question. Do they miss you? Yes. In fact, that's where it gets a little more nuanced again. This shows me that they actually are thinking about you quite a lot. But here's where, again, it gets more nuanced. It doesn't feel overly romantic. It doesn't feel like friendship vibes. It's much closer on the romantic spectrum of things. But it's like when we hope that our ex is thinking about us, we're hoping they're, thinking about cuddling with us and all those affectionate good times. And they're more thinking about your energy and how much they miss it. They miss your presence, they miss what you had to say, they miss your mind, they miss your perspective. So there's a lot of respect and affection in a different way of thinking about it and feeling about it. Does that make sense? It's not less, it's just different. And that difference or that different concept is really important when we look at one last detail, which is over here in the Temperance card in reverse and the Page of Wands upright. So I can see over here where things kind of went wrong or why they pulled away. So here's you in the Page of Wands upright. This is someone, again, who's very comfortable with dedicating themselves to somebody. They're so pumped to let everyone know, hey, I care about this person. They're excited to jump into a relationship. And this is when, like, sparks are starting to build up and going to turn into something more serious, more passionate, that type of concept. And it looks like you really let them know, like, hey, I'm into you, I want this to be more serious, whatever. It's this vibe of excitement and putting your feelings out there. And the more passionate you became in that sort of affectionate way, the more they pulled away. It was too much for them. It was not, think of, everybody has a different love language. Theirs was different than yours. Does that make sense? So they couldn't understand it. It became overwhelming in nature and they pulled away. You didn't do anything wrong. That's an important thing to note here, especially when I see the Temperance card in reverse. But it was kind of like a subconscious reaction, if that makes sense. Like they weren't thinking, I dislike the way that person showed their feelings, so therefore I will pull away from them. They didn't dislike you. It was kind of like, when someone goes, boo, and then you pull back and you go, ah, and you're not even thinking. Think of that as their reaction. They weren't thinking about it. It wasn't anything deeper. It was just a gut reaction based on their sort of personality, not your energy and vibe, if that makes sense. But here the Temperance card gives a lot of understanding and answers. So one, this does talk about when relationships are going really well and then kind of like out of nowhere they start to go bad. And the main reason why they're good and then go bad is based on like an incompatibility thing. Now this seems like a really harsh word and we're not talking about like soulmates and that type of thing. It's more of like how, like we talked about, how do you express yourself? How do they express themselves? Does that mesh up? Are you aware of each other's expression? Are you okay with that? Are they able to give back to you what you need and vice versa? And this sort of opposing concept is really great in the beginning. There's a lot of parts that you like about one another in that way, but over time, that starts to become like a clashing problem thing if things aren't mulled over or fixed, or like you have to be like, okay, listen, we're on different pages now. Let's talk about this. Now, the thing, though, is the Page of Wands and the Hermit card both suggest there is a chance for this relationship to get back together, but it's not a guarantee. They do need to make a move. I mean, you're welcome to make a move. That's not necessarily a bad thing in this situation. It's just that obviously it would mean a lot to you and the relationship. Like you wouldn't ever have a background thought in your mind of like, are they really here for me, or is it just because I reach out to them if they reached out first? But there's some, because it's not in their nature, there's a form of like closed offness, coldness, not a lack of being into you, if that makes sense. So they really need to stop that in order for it to, you know, work out. Then in addition to that, there is potential to have that discussion and say like, listen, this is how I express myself. Okay, this is how I express, you express yourself. And the main thing with temperance is it says you have to accept them and they have to accept you for who you are in order for this to work, because you can't change them. They're not going to be, if you want a partner who holds your hand in time all the time in public and they're against that sort of like public display, what can you do? Like, that's just who they are. If that's okay with you and you want to make this relationship work, go for it. But they also need to, you know, get over it and accept that you're someone that is, you know, very open, affectionate. There just needs to be a certain level of compromise and acceptance. So yes, there's a lot of positive stuff here, but the ultimate ending result just depends on what you guys want to do and feel comfortable with. But yes, they do miss you. They do think about you. And I just think it's really sweet because there just feels like two good people who kind of accidentally didn't sync up towards the end. And let's see if we can fix that. I hope you enjoyed this reading as much as I enjoyed giving it. Please feel free to give this video a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out like you would not believe. Either way, have a lovely day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's find out, does your ex have any regrets by looking at the cards? Your tarot cards are the Hangman upright. Okay, that pretty much answers everything. Okay, it's a pretty straightforward answer. I love that. This is definitely you, the High Priestess upright. We have the Page of Cups upright, Strength card in reverse, the Magician upright, and your last card is the Empress upright. Yeah, it's almost like she needs to fit right here. Wow. Wow, you're both the Magician and High Priestess. Okay. Very cool, very good energy. Okay, cool. This is like superhuman power stuff. This is really cool. So I have great stuff to talk about with you. Now, we're going to be going into all the answers to all the questions, but the ending does hint to a, yes, possible, you know, if you want to get back together, it's there, but hold on. Listen to everything, because the possibility is really still more up in the air depending on what you want to do. So let's get into that. So the Hanged Man upright is our straightforward answer to, do they have regrets? Yeah, they do. This always depicts somebody who kind of recoils and pulls away because they're looking over what they did in the past and they're like, oh, and they're facing it and they're dealing with it. And there's often a sense of like humiliation and just being like, ugh, I don't know if I agree with the fact that I did that kind of feeling. Now, the sorry for, like, do they feel sorry in addition to the regret? That's not so easy to answer. It's more nuanced, and we'll get to that in a moment when the, part arrives. So here you are with the High Priestess. You saw the situation clearly. The second you realized, oh, this is what's going on. Oh, this is the type of person you are. Oh, this is how you want me to be. It's like that's when the dynamic changed. I don't know. I don't feel like they were on purpose trying to trick you. It's just they were hoping you weren't going to notice. And once you did, it's almost like by you seeing them, they then had to see themselves. And that's why they pulled away. That's where they're kind of dealing with that now. You know what I mean? Now, the thing over here that's interesting is the Page of Cups does insinuate this idea of getting back together, this moment where they're thinking about you still. So do they miss you? Yes, but again, a little more nuanced than that, and we'll get into that. They're thinking about wanting to reach out to you. It's quite an eager feeling. It's like, oh, should I call them? Should I call them? I want to call them. So they're definitely trying to act on that. But here's the thing. The High Priestess card says two different things. On one hand, it says that they are not going to reach out to you until you kind of send them some sort of clue or a hint that you're still thinking about them. This is like those sort of type of tweets people send that you're kind of cryptically hinting to your ex kind of idea. Things where you're just kind of letting them know, hey, I'm still thinking about you. The second they see that, they're popping in real fast and going, hi, how are you? You know what I mean? They want to reach out badly. And the High Priestess also mentions that there is a very strong, like, when you guys finally talk, you can kind of just have like an open discussion and be like, listen, let's talk about this. Why did you do this? Why did you see me like that? Can we be honest? Can we open up here? Why do you do that? Why did I do that? So on and so forth. And that can heal a lot. But the healing needs to turn into a dramatic shift change in the relationship, especially when I see the Empress card over here. Again, if you would like to reciprocate these feelings and allow this possibility to open up, this is totally on you, because this is where the nuance comes in. This is where the whole sorry and the miss you type concept gets more explained, and we're going to go into what I exactly mean by when I said that. So the Strength card is what I would even describe as the motif of the spread. This basically talks about there's too much focus on like bedroom activities and affectionate in that type of way. This is when it's either too much, too little, it's too much at the forefront of the discussion and thought process of the relationship, and it's kind of causing like an imbalance and feels unhealthy in some way. Like, it's totally fine to be into your partner and have a good time a lot of the time, but this is when it doesn't feel like you're ever getting times to be yourself, and that shift change is extremely important to you. Because when I see you depicted as both the Magician and the High Priestess, this is extremely, I say that not lightly, extremely powerful energy. I often get these cards when I connect to people who have natural psychic abilities, people who work with magic, people who just kind of have like an unexplainable natural connection to higher consciousness, the universe. Things just manifest for them easier. When they experience things, it feels a lot more intense, a lot more magical, and it has a lot more meaning. There's a lot of power behind you. And that's really important to you. It's like that unexplainable feeling when you feel like your best self and everything feels balanced and in the flow. And when you feel that most confident, it's like everything else comes into alignment because of your true essence. Seriously, there is an energy about you that is kind of blending and weaving with the universe. That's why when you feel your best, everything else seems to work out your way. But with such a shift in only one aspect of your life, that is where there's a sort of, it's pulling you apart, fighting between the two of this. You are feeling like you have to decide. But I do want to keep this in mind. The Magician also still has this aspect within themselves. It's just given as much importance as like being able to be yourself, being able to have just regular conversations with your ex, being able to have time alone, being able to be social with your friends and be social with your ex. It's like having this beautiful menage of a multitude of things going on, just the right amount, no more, no less. And I can see there was another thing popping up here I do want to mention that I'm seeing now. It looks like there's a self-conscious vibe going on in this subject as well, because it feels like your partner was more experienced to the point that it started to make you question yourself and be like, oh, should I be bringing more? Is it enough? You know what I mean? Which, don't worry, you're good. This is just a psychological thing. It's not a definition of, let's just put it this way. You clearly were doing something right because they were so interested. So I hope that gives you some confidence. So this is where the whole do they miss you, are they sorry thing. I'll be honest with you, I do not get a sorry vibe from them. And to be clear, it's not because they're okay with what they did. They're not like, yep, glad I hurt them. There's just more of a feeling that it's almost like they're just so focused, and this is where we get into the miss you thing. They're so focused on getting this back. They want to be around your energy, your vibe, all that other good stuff as we talked about in the Strength card, that they're just not taking a long enough time to really connect with and therefore feel bad. So they're not like a bad person. They're not trying to be evil or manipulate you. It's just simply that they're, you know, they're more focused on this than your feelings, if that makes sense. So you see where that's like kind of, it's your decision if you want to open up the floodgates for a discussion. But then again, a lot of time when someone's so focused on this, and I told you, it's not that they're not sorry, but there's not a lack of emotion via like caring about you. That could be discussed in the open conversation going on here. So that's just some food for thought there. But also, when we talk about missing you, they miss you for reasons you might not be, like this was the problem to begin with. That's a problem within itself, that's one of the main reasons they're still interested in you. I do want to talk and mention that they do care about you more than just this, but it is still a problem. It's still their focus. It's still what they want, if that makes sense. Now, the Empress card basically says, what you need right now in a partner is, honestly, it's got to be all about you. I'm not saying having an equal dynamic of energy and time, all this stuff, but you kind of are really meant to, when I connect to these type of people, they're meant to have plenty of time to foster this like magical energy within themselves. They need plenty of time to feel balanced. They need plenty of time to feel good. They need to be taken care of and have a partner who understands that and brings that and doesn't try to like suck the energy out of them, so to speak. And in a way, this is a version of that with too much of this and the kind of perspective that's being twisted on the relationship from this sort of importance put here. And the Empress card basically says, you need a partner who's going to simultaneously nurture and support this side of you and more, instead of just solely focus on what they can get, and they can help lift you up, which will in turn make you feel even more drawn to them and build a nice connection between the two of you. But here's the big thing, and this goes back to this again. They can take care of themselves. They don't always need to kind of grab at you and this is an excuse. They say it's connection, but they're using it as an excuse to kind of be coddled is the best way to put it. And you kind of don't need that right now. You need someone who's just as equally confident so you can reflect that and vice versa. So this is what you need. There can be an open discussion to see what they feel about that, and maybe hopefully they can be aware of how they were and change the dynamic, and the discussion can happen is what I'm saying. There's an openness to it. So that basically implies there's an openness to consider this, but understand the nuances about the whole miss you question and sorry question. So at least they do have regrets and they do care about you. And fun fact, really, really magical and cool. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video or reading as much as I enjoyed giving it. Please consider giving the video a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. Either way, have a lovely day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number three. Let's find out, does your ex have any regrets? By looking at the cards. Your tarot cards are Six of Wands in reverse, Queen of Pentacles in reverse, Three of Swords upright, Two of Cups in reverse, Page of Cups in reverse, and your last card is Eight of Pentacles in reverse. I will tell you what, I am not surprised, especially when I see the other cards. Okay, so I want you to keep, I want you to listen to everything that's going to be said, especially when we have these three cards over here. Consider these the food for thought cards. And it's important you hear them because I can tell how much you're still really into them. And I'll just put it like that. So before we get into anything, I can tell you that they're going to come back into your life and you're most likely going to say yes and welcome them back in. But I say most likely or possibility in this case because while yes, they are going to reach out to you and be like, hey, you know, what's up? Let's get back together kind of vibe. you're more than welcome to say, no, thank you, and then prevent it from happening. But due to how much you're still into them, it feels like you're still going to say yes. So let's get into the details of all of this. Over here, we have the Six of Wands in reverse. This essentially shows someone very eager. This is your ex, very excited, very eager. They're going to approach you with this like zealousness and energy out of nowhere. But this is somebody who's not thinking ahead when they make this decision. It's different than like the Fool card. So like the Fool card is somebody who like leaps into something without experience, without like planning, similar concept, except at that point, it's positive. It's the unknown. It's time to go with the flow, go for it kind of vibe. This is somebody who is not and needs to, they're not planning and they need to plan because this attitude they have to just rush into something without thinking it through is going to have ramifications for both them and other parties involved. So this is more, especially with this card and this card popping up, both of these talk about instant gratification, and we'll get more into that later on. Now, the Queen of Pentacles shows there is some jealousy and possession coming, like happening here when they go out to reach out to you. So we have instant gratification. They want you when they want you. And some of that is motivated by their needing reassurance that you're still into them. You know, sometimes people like leave your life, but they still kind of want to like own you and they want you to think about them. They want to mess, very hot and cold vibes. It's like they want to live their life, but still have you pining for them. It's a very warped perspective, and I don't know why anyone would be like that, but sometimes people are. So it's very much motivated like that. They can see that you're doing your thing, you're still into them, but you're kind of slowly trying to, you know, move on in some ways, trying to feel healthier. And they're like, wait, where are you going? What's happening? Try to get your attention again. Now over here, especially with these three cards, this is when I can see that they reach out to you, get together with you, but unfortunately, there is another party involved. When they get with you, it's most likely not going to be expressed, and then after they get what they want from you, whatever that be, they're unfortunately going to leave. It's kind of like a rebound vibe. Now, if this is any sort of comfort, this other person involved is not their special somebody. You know, this is just one person. There'll be another person after that. This is not the end for them. But they could see they needed something because if they were experiencing the insecurity in their life, and they felt that you could give it to them. And unfortunately, because you're so into them, you know, you let them back in, but the intentions aren't great. This is really hard for me to talk about. I'm so sorry. I feel very deeply in pain that someone would treat you like this, if that makes sense. So with the Two of Cups, and I just want to point out the Page of Cups in reverse is like our double confirmation that it will, unfortunately, no matter how it works out, if you try to say yes or try to talk to them, it will ultimately end in disappointment. So it's just the way it is, unfortunately. Again, due to what they want out of it and everything. Now, the Two of Cups is kind of an interesting thing to pop up because this is another food for thought, because this is food for thought based on like what's happening, their intentions, things like this. But this is a card that pops up when, especially both of these cards, talk about problems happening because both of you are doing something wrong in the relationship. I will point out, though, that you're not doing something overtly wrong. You're not like a bad partner. It's just they're clouding your vision to think a certain way. Well, I'll get into that in a second. Because the Two of Cups pops up when basically your spirit guides are saying, when you keep running into this situation with this person in particular, or maybe you have a habit in the past of experiencing this with multiple different people, why is that happening? Why did you do what you did to them? Why did they do what they did to you? It's like kind of understanding and breaking that down in order to stop the cycle, stop it from happening. Like, that's why I'm saying that there's a possibility. It's like, you could at that moment go, wait a minute, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And be like, screw you. You're not really here for me, if that makes sense. And now when I do want to point this out because it makes it seem like you did something wrong when I say both of you. No, not at all. In this particular case, you didn't do anything wrong. Not everyone's innocent, but in this particular case, you are. It's more like, okay, so on one hand, they are dealing with instant gratification in the matter of like getting what they can from you for selfish reasons. That's it. They just want it. They want to make themselves feel good, and that doesn't involve you. But your version of instant gratification is you just want to be told that you're cared about and loved and given affection, and you're not really thinking about, well, why is my partner dealing with all of these insecurities? Like maybe, and again, it's not selfish of you to want that and not consider their feelings. That's not what's going on here. It's like, in his situation, or I'm sorry, in their situation, they need to work something out. They're being questioned of like, why are you doing this to yourself, to other people, so on and so forth. For you, it's like your question of like, why are you doing this to yourself? Because it's not helping you. Does that make sense? Because I just want to clarify again, you're good to go. You're just kind of lovingly being reached out by your spirit guides of being like, please don't go through this anymore. I don't want you to be in pain anymore. So, yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. No, that's it. I'm so sorry this couldn't be. Oh, I remember. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to answer the questions. Sorry, so the questions was, do they have any regrets? I'll be honest with you, not really. Are they sorry? No. Do they miss you? Not for the right reasons. Again, I'm so sorry this one was so bleak, but I think it's better you understand your worth and their not so positive intentions. You need to ask yourself, what do you want out of a relationship? Is this it? Because I think you can find something better somewhere else. So I hope you enjoyed this reading nonetheless, and it gave you some sort of closure or made you understand that you're special and you deserve better. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give the video a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. But either way, I am wishing you the best, sincerely, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And yeah, I look forward to seeing the next one. And now let's get ready for group number 4. Group number 4. Let's find out, does your ex have any regrets by looking at the cards? Your tarot cards are Page of Cups in reverse, the Lovers in reverse, the Empress in reverse, the High Priestess upright. Oh, the Emperor upright. That explains that. Yeah, okay, sorry. And then the final card is King of Pentacles in reverse. Okay. I'm going to share with you real quickly some angel numbers I'm seeing. I can usually be like, oh yes, this means this and this means this. I don't feel particularly connected to these numbers, but I don't normally, like, I'm seeing them, I'm sharing them, I'm just letting you know. I'm going to just talk about, I can't tell if it's 432 or 324, but 432 talks about you receiving messages from your spirit guides because they're trying to reach out to you through meditation and dreams. So it looks like they're trying to reach out to you. That's one. That makes sense. Spirit guides are always trying to reach out to us, but it looks like they can be a big comfort for you during this time. And then the other one is 324, and this might mean something to some of you guys, especially when I'm seeing some of the dynamics going on here. This is when they're basically talking about a balance between your private life and work life and being aware you don't live to work and finding a way to have both. But it feels like this more is related to your partner than you, if that makes sense. And it's kind of like more advice for them than you. But I'm just sharing that and putting that out there. Let's focus on what I more see. I can tell you right now, especially here and here, towards the end of the relationship, feeling of security for you just wasn't there. Now, if it's any sort of comfort, I don't see that your partner had any sort of wandering eye. It doesn't feel like they were interested in anyone else or you weren't enough. It's just this feeling of they couldn't give you that sort of feeling and promise that you guys were going to be together in the long run, and that you could feel it, and it started to bother you, and you started to hold on more and more, and a part of your personality that isn't really you started to kind of come out, because who can blame you? When we care about someone and we feel like that's going to be taken away or go away, you're gonna try to hold on, and that's understandable. But that was like a real source of contention towards the end of the relationship going on. I'm trying to think where to start. These two are both like the most important. Okay, so, if I didn't mention this, the King of Pentacles is the part talking specifically about the lack of security. And it also talks about when somebody is too focused on their worth being defined by money. So that's why the whole 3-2-4 thing kind of comes in. It's like, was that really important to your ex? Was that defining the relationship? So anyways, I just want to mention that. But this is more of the important stuff. So anyways, you can be depicted over here, the High Priestess. You're open, you're willing to talk, emotions come to you easily, you kind of are very frank with how you see things, but then over here, we have your ex. The Emperor is interesting because it can often feel like they're closing themselves off to you. They don't mean to be. They're not trying to withhold anything. One part of it's just like based on their, like, you know, to them, emotions don't come easily. They're more logic-based, they're more analytical. In fact, they're not really a romantic to begin with. That's something important to note, especially when we have the Page of Cups in reverse over here. They couldn't offer that, but keep this in mind. They are often keeping a lot behind the scenes because, so when we think about the logic of an emperor, they don't want to just let you know they're frightened or afraid or whatever they're going through, because they want to be able to evaluate it, understand when can they offer certain information at the right times in the right way in order to benefit everyone. So there's a lot of good intentions behind that. That's something important to notice about your ex. There was a lot of good intentions here. But while they were trying to evaluate things and do the right thing at the right time, that's not what you needed. You needed someone just being honest, talking off the cuff, letting them know how you feel. Stop thinking about it, tell me what you think. Like, it came off a totally different way, but they basically weren't able to give you what you needed, but they also needed somebody who was understanding of that side of their personality and got that and gave them the patience and time they needed to enact the way they wanted. We have two strong personalities that are like, listen, this is how I want to do things, this is how I want to do things. So that's not necessarily negative. I didn't feel like you guys are being stubborn. It's more just like you're being yourself, and it's a bit of a clash, so to speak. But here's where things carry on when we talk about them unable to be romantic with you in that way. The Page of Cups talks about that disappointing feeling you got via romance. You weren't getting the right type of affection that you really needed. And so that's what kind of gets into the Lover's card, which is really interesting. The Lover's card pops up when it's like the more they pulled away, the more you held on. And so that made them feel like they were kind of being, you know, I'm trying to think of a peaceful word. It was too much. They didn't want that. They felt like the relationship, it went from someone who's just caring about them, someone was trying to hold on to them for too strongly. But the problem is, the more that this kind of, you not getting this right affection and this then bringing out that part of, keep in mind, this is not your real personality, this is just a reaction, the more they pulled away and were kind of seeking their happiness elsewhere. This is like finding friendships elsewhere, finding it in work, whatever that be. And it feels like the more and more and more that brought out of you, the more it affected them, and vice versa. It was like a cycle. One was affecting the other, unfortunately. But I do want to point out the Empress card. This is when, this is really funny because whenever this card pops up, I find it kind of an almost overly harsh card, especially with what I'm feeling here. I don't feel like this is basically pops up when both members of the party are expecting something for nothing, essentially. I'm not getting the vibe that you guys are two terrible people. Not at all. It's more just like, if we think of it in a much nicer way, because this is how I'm feeling about it, You were like, I just want someone to be, or particularly your partner, I just want you to be affectionate for me, and I don't want to have to work for it. I want to be able to just say, give me affection, and I just receive it because you care about me, so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? That's not a negative thing that you don't want it to be a bartering system. And then over here, your partner is like, listen, I want to be able to just be myself and express myself in my own due time. And I don't need to like prove myself or like explain myself to you again, expecting you to understand that without putting in the effort of letting you know. But then here is the last food for thought and where the clash comes in. Well, maybe there's some sort of compromise that could make one understand the other by their actions. Like maybe if they came to you and said, hey, listen, I'm just someone who works this way. This is how I think. This is how I feel. Could you just be patient with me? Would you be okay with that? And then you would say, well, thank you for opening up to me that way. I can be patient with that. But in the meantime, I need some sort of reassurance that we're all good. Can you hold my hand? I know it's not your comfort level, but find some, in the middle to meet. And then it would become, again, less of a barter system and more of understanding each other by giving and taking in the right amount, if that makes sense. So now to get to brass tacks. Do they have any regrets? Honestly, no. But it's because they kind of have a bit of a stubborn, I don't know if stubborn is the word. It's like there's a quality where they're like, you know what? I just did what I felt was right for me. I didn't do anything wrong. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, don't you feel like you didn't do anything wrong by just saying, you know what? I cared about you. I fought for our relationship, so on and so forth. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, they weren't trying to hurt you, but it's like there's not any ill intent going your way. They don't have like a problem with you in that sort of confliction, if that makes sense. Like, they're not thinking like, haha, I have no regrets. It's more that they're being like, if you really confronted them on the issue, it's like, oh, so it's more important for you to be right than to care about your relationship falling apart. You know what I mean? So there's that answer. I will be honest with you. I don't get a sorry vibe, but again, it doesn't feel ill intent. And I'll be one last thing honest with you. I can't give you a solid answer on the missing thing. I'm leaning more towards a no, but I am somebody who does not give maybes unless I see enough proof. So sometimes certain answers just don't pop up in the cards because for whatever reason, spirit guides didn't feel that it was as important. So yeah, that's all you need to know. But yeah, just an unfortunate chain of events that happened that negatively affected one another. But they didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to be that way. You did nothing wrong. You were just asking for something and not receiving it. They needed to be more open, vice versa. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a chain of events. Yeah, well, man, I didn't mean to leave it on such a weird note. Sorry about that. I hope you still enjoyed this video. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to be an affectionate person, nor a logical person. Unfortunately, sometimes these relationships crash, but I also see a lot of them work. So I wouldn't say it's a bad thing if you wanted to kind of like talk about it with them, at least for the sake of closure. It doesn't seem like that's coming up necessarily that you have to do that. I'm just saying if you need to for closure, that wouldn't be a bad thing. That'd make you feel not so regretting. And just, I would say the biggest thing you need to know is you weren't in the wrong for feeling insecure about the security of the relationship. They made you feel that way. That wasn't right of them. They needed to be a little less concerned about being right and more concerned about their person they cared about being put in pain due to their actions. And it wasn't all in your head. That's the best way I want to put it. So anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out my channel like you would not believe. Either way, have a lovely day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I'm wishing you the best. And yeah, bye!